Well, thank you very much, Kameli, and I'm glad to have the opportunity to be with all of us and to share in this wonderful, through this wonderful power of technology, how to communicate science. And I want to subtitle my topic as making your topic relate to the world. So you have what your research is all about and how you can get it out there into the community. And for the most part, I want to be someone who provokes ideas. I don't want to be seen as a doyen of the knowledge about science communication, but rather a provocateur in whipping up interest and letting us know a few tips and ideas on how we can get our science communicated out there. A good number of the things I'll be sharing with you today, I have from this book called Share Your Research. Share your research. And I'm sure after the presentation, we can share details on where to access this document from. And I believe it would be a good piece on your shelves for communicating your science. So let's start. I think that it's important to, Gameli has introduced me already, but still give you a bit more into who I am and what I do. I have a philosophy in my academic and research life, and that is to improve on myself such that I can impart on the people for them to also give impact. And so I call it eye to eye to eye, that at every given opportunity, let's improve ourselves. After improving on ourselves, let's impart the knowledge we have onto others. And I think that a forum like this, where I'm able to impart or share what it is I know to others, a part of my philosophy of life would have been met. But it should not end at just the impartation. It should also bring impact. And I hope that after this, some of the nuggets I will share, you will also be able to distribute or share it amongst your close colleagues. By way of what I do or where I earn my check from, I'm a lecturer at the University of Ghana School of Pharmacy. I'm a researcher there as well in the POD lab, that's for Owusu Donkor lab. My research focus really is on drug discovery. I'm happy to say that I'm actually a member of the University of Ghana drug discovery team. And what I do is to look at medicinal plants, look into what makes them active or what gives them the activity that they so proffer when we take them. Go into how they have their toxicological or pharmacological activities and see how they can be optimized so that eventually they can become drugs and so, or medicines. So we use the terms interchangeably sometimes, drugs and medicines. And so that is what my research is all about. The other things I do, I am also the editor of the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana. I manage the Ghana Pharmaceutical Journal, and I'm responsible for internal and external communications of the Pharmaceutical Society. That is all pharmacists in Ghana. I'm also seminar coordinator for School of Pharmacy. And that's how come I invited Mr. Gameli to come give a discussion on science within the context of the digital age to students at School of Pharmacy. I'm also excited to see my own prof, Professor Mahamadou Weja, on this call. And it's exciting to know Prof. Kaufman is also here with us as well. The fun fact I was going to share on this slide was the fact that I speak Chinese. So I'm actually going to say a few phrases in Chinese, but Gameli has said that already. So let me give you another fun fact about myself. I am Ashanti, but I am quite tall. I am 6'3" tall. That is 1 meter 88 centimeters tall. And I understand that for most Ashantis, we are not that tall. We are fairly short. But for this Paul, who is this tall, I get people saying, Paul, what? Paul, what? Like Paul is tall. And that eventually became my nickname. That is Pauloa, which means Paul is tall. And that happens to be my Twitter handle and the name I use on most of my social media handles as well. So go search out Pauloa, P-A-U-L-L-O-W-A, and it will be Paul who is tall. Now, it's important that we have some wonderful exercise to go into our communication. And before I came here, I think I had to go to the supermarket to try and see if I could get some presents for everybody on this call. So far, we have 31 people here. And I think I have enough presents for everybody. I actually have more for even people who will join later on. So this is what I want you to do with the gift I am giving you. I'm going to throw a present at you. I'm going to give it to you, present it to you. I'm not telling you what it is, but you know what it is I am giving you by how I give it to you. What I want you to do is that after I have given you this present, hold it for a bit, and I want you to give it back to me. Is that all right? So I have a lot of goodies in here. I'm going to share amongst all 31 of us. You receive yours. Please don't keep it alone. Return the gift to me, Paul, over here. All right? So let's start. I'm not telling you what it is, but I think I have picked something out of here like this. And let me give it to you over there like that. So have you received it? Yeah, don't bring it yet. Okay, good. Now you can all throw it back at me. Gently. Okay, let me place all of them around here. Okay, and this is my second item. This is quite small. Okay, over to you. Okay, be sure you catch it. You have it? Okay, now you can return the gift. Oh, geez. Okay, that's a lot of particles. 31, what? Are these feathers or what? That's very light, okay. Now I think the biggest prize I have of all. Do I need to stand up and pick this? This is heavy. Okay, now over to you. Over there. Please catch it. Yeah, don't let it fall on the table. Yeah, you have it, good. Now bring it back to me. Okay. Before you guys crash my head. So the 3 items you received, you've given back to me. Did you know what it was I gave you? I don't think all 31 of you thought it was the same item I gave you. But in your minds, you have been able to conceptualize what it is that I was giving to you. And based on the weight of what I had given you, you were also able to deliver it back to me. Or if you had to deliver it to your student, to your colleague, to your mentee, you know the weight of the substance you have received and how you are giving it to such persons. So it is with the kinds of communication we give to the people who listen to us, that based on the weight we have in what the substance of what we are giving out, we may present it such that it's so heavy it crushes them when they receive it, or it is so light that they are unable to actually place a lot of value on it. It just sticks to your body and they brush it off. So let's always have that in mind, that at the receiver end, what it is we are sharing will be received the way they perceive it. So it is not just what you have that you are sharing with them, it is how they are also receiving what it is you are giving to them. Don't worry, I will make this clearer as we go along. It has been the challenge between science and our society, what we view science communication to be. Because on the one hand, we think that we as scientists think that we have useful knowledge, we are in the citadel of knowledge that profess new solutions, innovative ideas, ways of getting things to work. And we think that we communicate this to our society. Unfortunately, society also thinks that, yes, there's a science people somewhere, but what they are doing has no relevance to what we have over here. And so it appears that on one hand, we think we are so relevant. On the other hand, the society for who we exhaust and exert ourselves feel that what we are doing is only for our books and it doesn't benefit them. So how do we get the green lights, switching from science to society, the same way as society to science? And I believe that in the next 10 to 12 minutes that I engage with you, we will be able to find a few nuggets on how to address these issues. Let's try and understand what science is. I think that first and foremost, we must know the 4 cardinal pointers, whatever may be considered science communication, so that we would know whether what we are doing is really science communication or it is not. And I want to quote what the UK science, define science communication to be, and I identify 100% with it. Science communication in whatever shape or educate, share wonderment, and raise awareness. So at every point in time that we have an opportunity to communicate science, let's be sure that these 4 key ingredients are represented, that we are informing, we are educating, we are sharing wonderment, and we are raising awareness. I'll give you a few tips on how to do this in my last part. I want us to plot a certain graph, and I think this is the most important slide of all that we will share today, and we could spend forever on this page, that we will have a Y and an X axis of what our science communication is and how it should work. Now, on the Y axis, ordinarily, I would have said we will go with 5 items, what we term the 4 Ws and the 1 H. But I am generous enough to introduce a 6th item. So it will be 5 Ws and 1 H instead. But really, you can still go with the 4 Ws and 1 H, and you won't be wrong. That whenever we are communicating science, we first must look at the what it is we are communicating. I have put what at the top, but realize that when I said I would want us to do 4 Ws instead, if we have to slash one of the Ws from the 5 we have here, what is the item I would take out? And I would explain very shortly why that is the case. But really, a number of issues are going on. To communicate science, we must show a certain level of relevance. Our science must be relevant within a time frame. And so when we say what it is we are communicating, it must be something that works within the times that we are in. What is happening within those times should be what excites our minds to want to communicate to society or to community. Now, COVID-19 perhaps is what steals the headlines everywhere you go. How do you work around COVID-19, still capturing your unique science that you are doing, such that you communicate COVID-19 all right, but for the most part, the emphasis is on the science you are doing? So in answering the what question, try not to tell people what. Try to tell people that, and it's a small mind shift, but it speaks a world of difference. COVID-19 is what is around. Don't come and tell people what COVID-19 is, because it is already hot topic, and so people know a lot about that. Tell them that your kind of research sits within COVID-19 this way. I will share an example with you when I had the opportunity to speak on UTV. I think it's the most watched TV show in Ghana, UTV's morning show. And I was there to speak about medicines. That was around the time that hydroxychloroquine was being popularized. And we as pharmacists felt that the kind of attention hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine were getting had portended something worse for us going into the future, because people who really needed it would be denied access, when we also know that it is not a proven cure against COVID-19. So I sat on UTV to talk about COVID-19, but the focus of my presentation wasn't on what COVID-19 is. It was to say what medicines are in the pipeline and what medicines we should not put an emphasis on. So it was in the era of COVID-19, all right, but I was speaking that this is the kind of work I do as a pharmacist, as a researcher in drug discovery, that has an impact on COVID-19. Let me give you another example. When the Sex for Great scandal came up, BBC threw a lot of light on that, and University of Ghana, where I am, was caught in the eye of the storm when that news broke. And right when that news was hot cake, as seminar coordinator for School of Pharmacy, we wanted to see how we could leverage on what was happening within the environment and still speak our science. So listen to a topic we came up with. Sexual harassment on our campuses, a bitter pill to swallow. The bitter pill bit was more about what we do in the School of Pharmacy. We talk about medicines. So how do you do sexual harassment and medicines? We also know that health is not just about the absence of disease. We also talk about the mental health of our patients, of our clients. And that is what we also do in the School of Pharmacy. We have a whole department that deals with that pharmacy practice. And so we dwelt a lot on what was the current topic and discussed that this is what we do in our science and how it relates to that hot topic. Why do you need to communicate your science? So that you create awareness, you bust myths. This comes again in the summary that I will be giving you, that whenever you start communicating your science, know the why behind it. Because in the end, when you are concluding, you must always come down or come back to the why you are communicating your science. I am communicating on this platform about science communication because I want to drive a certain behavior change in how we communicate science to our students, to our colleagues, to our mentees, and the people in our communities. The why must drive how you communicate. So where can you do this? Previously, a lot of it had to do with an offline forum. So Gameli has been organizing science cafes around. I go to some of these. It's an exciting time to actually be in a science cafe where you get to meet people in the science community and exchange ideas. But in the era of COVID, with Delta not wanting to go away anytime soon, we have switched to an online platform. We need to learn skills and techniques on how to present using online platforms. There are certain gadgets that we should acquire to help harness the kinds of presentations we can give on virtual platforms like this. So in fact, it's one thing that I have tried to hammer on with my students, that there are rubrics and etiquettes that guide virtual presentations. And it is something that year on year, we want to educate our students on. So when is it okay to communicate science? In fact, as appropriate. So when issues are happening, just as we did with the what question, or whatever is trending at whatever time, let's try and see how we plug in so that we answer the when question. So the how, the easiest is to talk. More difficult ones would be to write, to sketch, to animate, to do a video or feature of that. So that is the y-axis on the 4 Ws and 1 H, or if you like, 5 Ws and 1 H. Now on the x-axis, this is the most important thing you must leave this meeting with, that whenever you are communicating, 5 key things you are thinking about are yourself, the person you are communicating to. So when I was giving you my gifts, I thought about what I could carry and how I would give to you. So you became the receiver. And then you have the medium or the channel. Here I am using this channel on the how we do presentations. I'm using the virtual or digital channel. So we need to learn what is appropriate for whatever channel. Poster presentations have certain rubrics about them that make them more appealing. So you are not slapping all your data in the face of people. If you are doing a PowerPoint presentation, you don't want too much text. At the same time, you don't want it to be too funny that we lose the import of what it is you are sharing. So the channel is always important to you. It will tell how you work around the kind of message you want to send across. And then the topic. So when it comes to the topic, there are 5 key things you would have to know. We call them the relevance criteria, which I'll share with you in my next few slides. So the relevance criteria must always inform the topic, how you are going to discuss the topic given you. You remember that Gameli came with the topic of the art of science communication. And I started my presentation by saying that my people, it appears I lost connection moments ago. My apologies for that. So the channel is important. So if you know you need a backup for your virtual presentations, be sure to invest quite well into that before you get a faux pas like what just happened over here. Okay, and then the last bit will be about the language. And I like what Prof. Wellington said. He mentioned in the beginning that he wants to see how we can use the vernacular in communicating science. I think that within the Ghanaian context, if you have a good command of the local language, you are well able to communicate your science. And I have seen this on most of the radio and TV stations I have been to as editor of the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana to speak on health-related issues. The English stations don't give you as much mileage as the Cree stations do. And the kinds of questions that get thrown at you from the vernacular stations are more exciting. They speak to the heart of what is happening amongst the people more than the English stations do. So the language is always critical here. Let's not limit all our communication into the English or the Franca, which is what is considered the official means of communicating in our country. If we want to communicate to the society, we must look at ways of breaking our conversation down and using the right language for it. So if you forget anything at all, remember the 4 W's and 1 H on your y-axis, and then the 5 items on your x-axis as you, the sender, the person you are communicating to as a receiver, the medium or the channel, the kind of topic, and you must always gauge your topic with the relevance criteria and then the language that you have. So in brief, I'm summarizing actually all that I have said. I will come down to this one power slide. I have a 2-year-old daughter over there. Her name is Amasewa. And you'll be surprised the kinds of conversations I have with this little 2-year-old. The question is, what is the vocabulary range of a 2-year-old? Not much, you would say, but we still have exciting conversations. I get her, I send her on errands, and she asks me for things that she needs done. How are we able to go around it? I was telling someone that just as Jesus would have said, if you want to learn about hard work, you would have to visit the ant, because the ant has a way of laboring in the right season, so it stores up food for the bad seasons. I think when we want to do some good practices for science communication, we should go and learn from kids. If you can have one full day with a kid and have engaging conversations, then know that really you can have engaging conversations about your science with anybody else. This is how you do it. One, that you bite-size your message. In bite-sizing your message, you know that you have spent 3 to 5 years on a PhD program. There's a lot of data you have, and you need to communicate all of that. You can't communicate all of that within, Gameli is giving me less than 20 minutes for this presentation. I can't come and share all that I have in this book that I described to you from the beginning of my What you ought to do is to bite-size what you are communicating. So I know how much I need to tell my 2-year-old if I need her to get something done. If I am asking my wife to do same, I will embellish it and be more specific about what it is that I am saying. Bite-size your communication. To achieve a proper bite size of your communication, always find an angle. So, for instance, your whole research, and my research is about drug discovery. At the moment, I am working on Precursor tetraplera tetraptera, and I'm looking at how the activity that it has on prostate cancer. So I'm doing anti-proliferative and cytotoxicity effects of some constituents from tetraplera tetraptera stem and back. I'm using different solvent systems to configure the kinds of extracts that I would have, which of course will also interpret or go into the kinds of constituents that I am finally able to isolate. But when I am communicating that science to, say, my church folk, I must find an angle. And that angle will be, so when you eat soup at home, Do you put prekese in it? If the answer is yes, I know how to progress with that conversation to let them appreciate the kind of work I am doing in the lab. The angle. Find your angle. And when you find that angle, know that, and I said this in the previous slide, that you are not going to tell them about prekese. You are going to tell them that prekese has some constituents within this and that configuration that may have some anti-prostate effect. Find an angle. And when you have that angle, speak to it that, and you are not going to speak to it about. If you limit yourself to speaking to about conversations, you end up writing a book or a chapter on the topic it is that you are researching on. But when you are communicating your science, that is not what you are doing. And it is the same when you have opportunities on radio and TV, that usually you don't have too much time to speak. You only have at most some 3 minutes, sometimes 30 seconds to make your point well known. Bite-size it through the angle that you would have formed or the angle that you would have chosen. Now, I have mentioned the relevance criteria to you many times. And the 5 cardinal points about relevance criteria, which is what, as editor, I consider whenever articles come to me. So I consider what to publish, where to place it, whether it will come on page 1 or it will go to page 7, is the timeliness of it. Once COVID is around, you really cannot come and talk about malaria, even though malaria is relevant. But on the relevance criteria, timeliness does not allow you to put too much emphasis on malaria. So if you are talking about malaria, see how it ties in with the COVID conversation, that now we are focusing a lot on COVID-related conditions, neglecting the endemic condition of malaria, which we have to grapple with in our communities. And then you proceed from there to talk about your science. Timeliness. Let it always be part of your relevance criteria. Of course, importance, even identification, that is picking the topic that you have. I think the 4th and 5th points are what most of the English stations in Ghana dwell their attention on. Sensation. There must be something titillating, something that tickles and pricks the mind, gets you to, you call it a clickbait, gets you to want to talk about a particular matter. When I was giving the short bio of myself to Gameli, I wanted to know what sensation I could put into the short bio that I was supposed to give him. And I'm like, the Black Chinese angle will not be bad at all. So let me let him know that I'm a communicator and I speak good Cree, but I speak good Chinese as well. Let there be some sensation about the kind of matter that you are presenting to the community. And it is even more exciting to bring up sensational matters if you have a conflict. So a conflict is when we know something to be the case, but you are bringing a point that is at variance with what we all know. So if your findings, if your research findings are in conflict with what is mostly held, that right there is the relevance criteria working for you. Let that be the sensation in the kind of communication that you bring out there. And of course, the last bit, the last but one before I go to some advice somebody gave me a long time ago and still works for me. Remember the scientific element. If there's a record about what you are communicating, for instance, did you know that, and I must share this because just a few weeks ago, God blessed me with a set of twins, and I'm so happy about that. And I've been reading about twin births. And did you know that Nigeria has the highest number of twin births in the world? I didn't know. It's when I had my twins that I had to go search on all of that and see it. It's exciting. So when there's a record like that, bring it out. Let that lead the kind of conversation you have. What kind of research have you gone into? And what records are there to bring out in your sensational bit? Fascinating enough that, so the myth busting bit will be like your conflict situation. So this is what most people know, but this is what you know, and it busts that myth. It is at conflict with it. Maybe you don't meet any of these relevance criteria issues and scientific element issues, but does it speak to the future? Is it of relevance for what may happen sometime in the future, then yes, bring that out as well when you are communicating your science. And lastly, what I want you to keep in your mind is listen to someone. So who do you listen to? I think that Kweku Baako has set a certain tone in Ghana for how we do political discourse. If you want a reference point on political communication, Kweku Baako is somebody you may want to be listening to all the time. You are a scientist and you communicate your science. Find that someone who communicates science the way you think science should be communicated and listen to that person often. You will always learn new tips from them almost every time. I like to listen to someone called Dr. Kwame Esiedu. He is a pharmacist. He's PhD, but pharmacist as well. And since COVID came up, he's been speaking on a lot of fora. And I enjoy listening to him, how he argues out his position, how he presents his facts and makes meaning out of them. Listen to such persons and pick ideas from how they communicate so that you can do same in your field. So before I go, today is Friday. Let's do a little exercise, okay? And then I end this presentation. So it's Friday. Yes, we all know it's Friday. Now I'm going to say that it's Friday. However I say that it is Friday, the answer is yes, because really it is Friday. So whatever I say, I want you to respond with the answer yes. Is that okay? However I say it, respond with the energy that I give you. So let's start with it's Friday. Your answer is yes for any of the questions I would ask. So it's Friday. It's Friday. It's Friday. Okay. It's Friday. That's how it works. Let your conversations be infectious. If it's infectious from within you, your audience will also be excited about what you are presenting. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. And I'm here to listen to whatever comments and questions you may have. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Paul. Been quite an extensive presentation, and thanks so much for your energy as well. I'm going to hand over straight to our second presenter, Angela. She's going to tell us more about how she does the science communication. Thank you very much, Angela, for being with us today.
So thanks very much to Gamali and the organizers for this opportunity to speak. Today, I'll be speaking mainly on our journeys as female African mathematicians, which is an initiative I started a few years ago. But I'll also talk about Science Slam, which was where I met most of the people on this platform. That's where I met Gamali, Tom, and a few others. Fema Freak Math, and Ames Girls Mathematical Sciences program. We just opened for applications, so it'll be a good platform to talk about it. So great, so let me take you back to 2017, precisely was in July 2017. So back then I was a PhD student at the University of Glasgow. I was a PhD math student, and there was a program called Science Slam. So what's a Science Slam? So Science Slam is a science communication event where researchers share their research to a lay audience in fun and engaging ways. So I was looking at ways of demystifying the mathematics that I do. Anytime I went out and I met people, they'll ask you, what are you studying? And when you say you're studying mathematics, they ask you to tell them a bit about your research. So I decided, okay, I was going to take this challenge of telling the story about my research in 10 minutes. So this is a picture of me. It was an evening event, and I spoke on the topic, how big would your dictionary be if you could form all possible words, and which was more of my abstract research being translated into layman terms. So the video for this was uploaded on Facebook, and it went viral. So at the time I took this screenshot, it had 12K views. So it was like, wow, I did this talk to maybe an audience of 100, but it had gone very viral. So I realized, okay, there was something in this which I could bring back to Ghana. So in 2019, I was still a PhD student, specifically in February. So in February, I came with my supervisor to teach at Ames, Ghana. So I was thinking of, okay, how can I bring this Glasgow experience to Ghana? So I started, okay, maybe I can start something called Science Slam GH. So usually it's the same Science Slam, but bringing it to Ghana. So I discussed this with the team at Ames Ghana, who were happy to support me. So we started this with the students at Ames Ghana. So this on YouTube. So if you like to check us out, you can find the videos on YouTube. So our students from Ames Ghana presented their research in 10 minutes. We hosted it at the University of Ghana, which it was really phenomenal. Our winners here, they gave their talk using in terms of storytelling. So we did that in 2019. Last year, 2020, we are planning to have one. I remember I contacted Paul for this, and I was happy to see him here, but unfortunately, COVID came and we couldn't have that. But this year we hosted it, but it was just private to Ames, where our students presented their research. So I'll be happy to speak to the audience here about next year's edition, getting more representation from the community here. So that's about Science Slam. So when I told this story about my research on the Science Slam stage, I realized, okay, social media was a very powerful tool. So how can I use social media to reach my audience? I was away, but I also wanted to reach my audience in Africa and in Ghana in particular. So I started this new initiative. So FEM here stands for Female, Afrique stands for African, and MATH stands for mathematicians. So when I was a PhD student, I was looking online for mentors who had blazed the trail, who had done similar things that I had done, but I couldn't find a lot of them. So I said, okay, maybe they exist, but we haven't documented their stories. And I said, okay, I think I'm great at telling stories, so maybe I can tell their stories. How? By using social media. So the strategy here is to use social media to tell stories. So we launched this in 2018. I remember it was my birthday. We launched it in my small flat with friends. And what was this? So this was me, anytime I met female African mathematicians, whether at conferences or seminars, I used the opportunity to interview them, and we posted them on our social media platform. And what's our mission? Our mission is to showcase the different career options available when you study mathematics. So for most of us, we think that when you study mathematics, you can only end up as a lecturer or a teacher, but I realized that you could do so many things. So I wanted to use this platform to show young girls in Africa or across the world that you could do so many things when you study mathematics. And our vision is to see girls being confident to take up careers in mathematics-related fields. So this is a little bit of our statistics. So far, our numbers are increasing, but the last time I did this, we had 26 guests that we had interviewed from African countries. I'm from Ghana, so there's no surprise that Ghana is highly represented here, followed by Kenya, Nigeria, and the list goes on. So our aim is to reach every country in Africa by interviewing the female African mathematicians. So a little bit about our stories. So one thing I realized after, let's say, 3 years of doing this is that for most of us, either my guests or myself, we grew up not having a Black hero of maths who had blazed this trail. Most of us dreamt beyond our surroundings. So growing up, I didn't have any mathematician in my surrounding, but we all aspired to do this, even though we didn't have this. But also, we all had to travel abroad, which seemed very strange that we couldn't even find experts in our countries to be our supervisors, but we had to travel abroad through scholarships. I'll mention this because they funded my PhD, but also the call for applications is open. So the Schlumberger Foundation Faculty for the Future sponsors women in STEM from developing countries to study at top universities and return to their home countries. And most of us returned home, which was really great. So why is it important for us to tell these stories? So here's a picture of this Ivorian mathematician, Josephine Wanja, who was the first female African to receive a PhD in mathematics. She got that in the year 1981. So you would think that, okay, we've come a long way, right? So maybe now we have more females taking up careers in mathematics. But as recent as 2020, so one of my guests was from Botswana. She was the first female from Botswana to receive a PhD in mathematics, and she received that in 2020, which tells you that there are still countries in Africa where our representation is not there. So if we have some representation, it's important that we highlight their stories so that more young girls will see and aspire to be. So a little bit of our statistics. So we are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, we are on Instagram, we are on YouTube. Most of our followers are on Facebook. If you like to follow us on all these platforms, we are at FemAfrique Mass. And our statistics in terms of men and women, we would want more followers to be women, but unfortunately we have more of our followers being men. But the good thing is that out of our top 10 countries with most followers, we have 7 African countries being in the top 10, which means that we actually reaching our goal of reaching young girls in Africa with mentors who have blazed a trail in mathematics. So I'll end with this final part talking about the Ames Girls in Mathematical Sciences program. So for most of us, we have talents in mathematics. I was great at mathematics, I knew this, but very often you don't find places where you can nurture these talents. So you go through it and sometimes you just drop maths and you just end up doing something else, right? So at Ames, we've introduced this new program, the GMSP, for secondary school girls so that we could nurture these talents, so that by the time they go to the universities, they are aware that, okay, when I study mathematics, I can be a data scientist, I can be an AI expert, I can be a disease model. There are so many things you could do. So this program is for SH1 and 2 girls, Ghanaians, because we are funded by the government of Ghana. So for now, it's only open to Ghanaians, but hopefully we hope to scale it up to other countries. And they should have a passion for mathematics, which will be reflected in our selection. We go through interviews. So selection involves interviews with a panel, and that's how we find out whether they are passionate about maths or not. But there should be girls who are interested in pursuing careers in STEM-related fields. And this program is fully funded. So once a girl comes in, the 9 months, they are not on campus. So someone asks, do they come physically to Ames? No. So it's mainly virtual. So we meet them monthly for master classes with world-renowned scientists. But each student is also assigned a mentor who will guide them on their journey. Then during the Easter break and the long vac, they come to Ames, Ghana for residential camp. So during this camp, we have mini courses for them. We have industrial visits, and they also get to meet prominent people. So last year we started with 35 girls from 11 regions of Ghana, which I think is great. And this year we've opened it. The deadline is 30th September. So if you know anyone who is interested, please pass this on. To my final slide. Yeah. Okay, so this was the eligibility criteria, and this is just the delivery mode. And yes, so I'm happy to talk more, discuss more about this. And I'm currently moving into my new role as the academic manager for this program, which is exciting, which means that I can be more involved in this whole new project to groom the talents of female Ghanaians in mathematics. So yeah, I think I'll end here by saying Medas.
Fantastic, Angela. Thank you very much. It's wonderful as always. And yeah, I'll just make a quick comment. If anybody has any questions for Angela, please feel free to put it in the chat. I'll invite Tom. Oh no, sorry. If you have any question for Angela, and you wanted to answer now, please feel free to ask now, because I think she will probably drop off soon. So yeah, if you have any questions specifically for her, please feel free to post it in the chat or ask now. However, if you have a general question, then post it in the chat. We'll deal with it later. So I will just hand over to our next speaker, Dr. Thomas Tego, founder of GH Scientific, also a lecturer at the University of Ghana.
Okay, all right, that's great. Hope you can all hear me well, and good evening to you all once again. So yeah, so for the next 10-15 minutes or so, I'm going to be sharing with you all some science stories, right? So some science communication stories of what myself and the team at GH Scientific we've been doing over the last couple of years. Just to really give you a sense of, what it looks like if you start, putting into place some of the guidelines and some of the rules that Paul greatly shared with us right at the start of the session. Okay. So I really like the definition that Paul used, and it's very similar to the one that I have, saying that science communication being the practice of informing and educating, sharing wonderment, and so on. Me personally, I like the wonderment part. I really like the wonderment part because, when you see it in people, when you share a piece of science, which, others may not be aware of, that first time when, it comes with shock, or it comes with awe, and then it follows up with just a series of questions. Or even when you get to experience something freshly for the first time, it follows up with that. Now, as was said, I'm also a neuroscientist, so I study and research around the brain. And I get this all the time in class. You share certain facts or properties of the brain, and it's always a wow, people don't even realize the amazing properties of the brain. So one such instance, you can clearly see in this picture here at the bottom. Some of the various activities we have been doing. One where we went out about like shopping centers. People do street evangelism. We do street science. And you can see in the right over here, this young boy who is using what's called a Cartesian diver, right? So you cannot see it clearly, but at the top of that bottle, right over there, is a sort of a bottle top, which has some air trapped in it, right? And what then this means is that if you squeeze the bottle, right, and you change the pressure of the water in it, that bottle top that's in the water, you can get it to sink or float, all right? And it's just a very gentle squeeze. So it is the sort of thing that you do, and if no one knows you're squeezing, it's just like, wow, how are you making this thing float up and down? So this is what I want us to start off from. And for the next few minutes, what I'm going to be sharing with you will be 3 different stories of projects that we've been running at GH Scientific over the last few years. And each of them is going to build up on the idea that, science has always been seen as this citadel of knowledge. And I think Paul said this really well right at the beginning, that we're doing all this stuff along the way somewhere, but it's supposed to be to the benefit of others. All right. So we're going to run with an analogy for the next 3 slides that I'm going to be sharing with you. And this analogy is about Muhammad and the mountain, right? Muhammad and the mountain. So in this case, we can either take science to the people or bring the people to us. All right. So I'm sharing here on the picture on the right is an image that was taken at one of our events. For those of you who are in Ghana, you may recognize the buildings at the back there as the Accra Mall. Okay. And what we're doing here was just, sharing with people. Oh, Sarah is here. Sorry, I just saw the chats come up. Okay. So just to say, anyone can be wowed by science. Here we were, just sharing different science with people and doing various practicals. And here you are with a police officer who came and he was wowed by the science practicals we were showing, right? It's not only kids, it's not only students, even grown-ups who may not necessarily apply within the field of science, they can also enjoy and be wowed by science. Sorry, it appears I need to restart this. So apologies about that. Okay, let's try this again. If you just bear with me one quick minute, please. All right, let's see where we are now. Okay, all right. We should be back in any minute now. Okay, there we go. Okay, all right. All right, sorry for that unplanned intermission break. Okay, so these should be all right, there we are. Okay, so yes, like I was saying, so this is one such event that we have done. Each year it takes a slightly different theme, but really it tries to leverage on taking science to people in a way that they would normally not get to experience it, and, just enjoying as they are wowed by the science of it all. Okay, then of course there's the second objective, or the second option, which is Mohammed going to the mountain instead. And in this case, what we've done is finding opportunities where we bring students into academic institutions. All right, we bring students into the University of Ghana, into spaces where they would normally not go at their age, and get them to experience some of what we do. Now, I'm particularly showing this one here. That's my colleague of mine, Dr. Richard Blay, in the anatomy department of the medical school. And we've done these sort of like activities where we bring either girls or a mixture of both sexes into the university to sort of engage them with various activities. We've done this on a yearly basis for the last 3 or 4 years. And this one particularly strikes me, and the reason I put this picture here is because on this one day, after Richard managed to give them a nice little presentation, they did this in the Anatomy Museum. If anybody ever gets the chance to visit the Anatomy Museum of a medical school, you see some of the strangest things. And what's even better for the students is after he finished, he took them to sort of like the practical dissection lab that's used in the medical school, and they got a chance to see an actual human brain that had been fixed. Okay, now for senior high school students, some coming from schools where their practical labs may not necessarily be the best thing, that experience of seeing and poking a human brain, right? You can imagine that's something that's going to stick with them for a very long time. And I've had instances where some of these students have then later on come into the medical school, right? And I've had to be their lecturer, and they remember it, right? They remember this experience. and else, you know, a positive moment throughout their journey. Okay, so that's the thing. There's no substitute for experience. You know, having something that you can touch, hold, feel, your own personal memory is great. And one of the things that we always try and do at GH Scientific, give people an experience of science, and it'll always go a long way with them. Okay, now, you know, you've taken them mountain to Muhammad. Muhammad has gone to the mountain. But in this day and age, Muhammad could have stayed where he was, the mountain would have stayed where it was, and everybody just connects online using digital tools. So that's some of what we've been doing. And the one that we really try now is with a project that we've been running over the last 2 years called the Evolution of Science. Now, this project started out with a very simple premise, okay? Can you get artists to use various artistic mediums to communicate some piece of scientific content? Okay. So really leveraging on the ability of arts to really touch at people's hearts, to communicate science, which really touches at people's, you know, mind and brain. So we did this. We hosted a launch event. There are a few people on this call who I know were there. And then as we're trying to host it in other places, in other cities, COVID came, everything shuts down, and we have to think about what else we can do with it. So we tried a number of different things, but what seems to have stuck, or what will be sticking, is we've managed to, over the last few months, actually create a 3D rendition of the exhibition and load all the pieces of work on there as a digital copy, right? It's almost finished. So for the next minute or so, I'm going to show you what part of it looks like now. So you can get a sense of what it will be like when it finishes and, you know, and we fully launch it. But essentially, it's going to be a walkthrough. So if you've ever experienced using Google Maps and you get to sort of navigate the streets on your phone, right? And you move forward, you turn left and right and so on. That's what it's going to be like. And once you walk through and come across an exhibition, you can click on it and it will tell you the story and, you know, what the artist was trying to communicate with that. So this is where I hope this plays. There's no sound, so I will talk over it a little bit just to give you a sense of what it's going to look like. So, okay, great. So some of these are pictures, which one visual artist, you know, is using to capture a nurse actually who creates, you know, artificial eyes for people who, you know, have lost their eye for one reason or the other, just for aesthetic purposes. Okay. So you can see how you can walk through that and see those images. If this was the whole thing, you'd then be able to, you know, click on the actual image you want, and there'll be a little blurb. In the final piece, it's having a sort of like music soundtrack in the background to help you, you know, as you're walking through. There's a narration that you can listen to instead if you don't want to read. And of course, you then have full control about how quickly you move through the whole exhibition. So this is what we've decided to do with the Evolution of Science. And actually, we're hoping to launch it next month at one of the sort of like community events that a lot of people within the science space in Ghana are engaging, which is the Science Barcamp. So next month, 21st of September, we will be launching the full sort of like 3D walkthrough and give people an experience of that. And after that, it's going to be online for about a year or so. So you can always go visit it as needed. Okay. So on to our last but one slide. And that really I've put in there to try and say, from these 3 stories I've shared, what have we learned? You know, for GH Scientific, we've been doing this since 2014, right? Just finding ways and means to engage people with science, whatever it takes. You know, we go to them, they come to us, all avenues, radio, internet, everything available to us. And what we've learned, what I've come to really appreciate is that, you know, good things happen when the science community engages with the public. It's as simple as that. It doesn't need to be a large project like what we are doing with the Evolution of Science. But it could be something as simple as, you know, the local school, and going there and regularly engaging with the students there, because, you know, if you've been to university or you're a graduate, the knowledge that you have, the scientific knowledge that you have, is worlds apart from what someone at junior high school knows, right? And your ability to communicate that will also be worlds apart from what someone at junior high school does. So, you know, we're all in a position that we can start leveraging our own knowledge and skills in our communities to engage people with various aspects of science. Okay, so to end now, I'd like to share this slide because, like I said, we're very big on experience. And this is one of the things we are doing to help give people experience, which is we've created a membership program to give people more volunteer opportunities to go out there and also communicate science, right? So over the last year, when we couldn't move around so much because of the COVID, and we're still trying to do something with the evolution of science, we had one of our members who he's based in Timeliness. Those who are in Ghana, you know, is a further up north from the capital, so towards the topmost part of the country, and take a long time to travel up there. But he was based there. So we just made some materials available to him, supported him, and he ran a science engagement program with some assistance from us. Just last week, we had another lady who's been working with us, and she's also in a different city, a few hours away from the capital, and we supported her. And she also ran a science engagement activity around the evolution of science. So that idea of, you know, giving people that first opportunity to go ahead and try their hands aside for themselves. And from that experience onwards, you know, they can become independent and figure out how to, you know, do science communication for themselves wherever they may be. All right, so that's that. Thank you all for your time. And yeah, I'm gonna turn this all off and I'll be here for questions. All right.
Okay. Thank you very much, Tom. That was a brilliant presentation, and kudos on the great job that you and the GH scientific has been doing. Yeah, and it's fantastic what you've done with the different approaches, either taking science to the people or the people coming science to speak, and also with the evolution of science. So yeah, so kudos on that. So I think it's time to open up the conversation to everybody. So if you have any question, feel free to, perhaps you can use the reactions. So you can click on the reaction and maybe use the raise hand feature, and then we'll call on you to ask your question. If you prefer to ask your question in the chat, also free to post your question in the chat, and then we'll raise this question on your behalf. In the absence of any question, I'd like to invite Professor Wellington. He was making a point about the use of vernacular as far as science engagement is concerned. I think that would be nice to kind of listen more to his thoughts on that, and then we can have a conversation around how do we reach more people rather than just the usual suspects. Prof.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to bring out my thoughts on this issue of vernacularization of the language of science in Ghana. But before then, I must express my surprise to hear from Angela to say that at the time she was growing up, there was no known Black hero in maths. I wonder whether she knew about the founder of Ames in Ghana, the late Professor Aluti. I mean, he was one of our greatest Ghanaian heroes, the Black heroes in mathematics. I'm wondering what happened, and she never knew about such a great man. Then the story about the Jackson's siblings, a family full of mathematicians. One wondered what type of brains did they have, which probably Professor Dr. Tego may want to research into that. The list of the Jacksons I know who didn't do maths was Professor Ebo Jackson at the KN University, who studied electrical engineering. He was known to be the worst of the taxi families because he didn't do mathematics, but he went to electrical engineering. Anyway, this just to explain my surprise that Angela said there were no Black mathematician heroes at the time she was growing up. Now, I want to commend all the presenters for very brilliant and very interesting presentations. Although my need hasn't been directly spoken to, although my good friend, the Professor Owusu, Professor Owusu made an allusion to my concern about language using vernacular in science. I must say that I was hoping that somebody will share experience, especially in this act of the mountain being taken to Muhammad, whereby the very interesting reference to street science instead of street evangelism. I was wondering whether the language which was used to do this kind of very interesting program was in English or in the one of the local languages. My concern about this innovative science education has to do with what science should do to us. We should let science inform our minds and science to inform our hearts. As they have said, if you communicate with somebody in the person's mother tongue, you speak to the person's mind and you speak to the person's heart, his real essence, who he is, if it's in the mother tongue. But if it's a foreign language like ours, in Ghanaian situation where you use English, you only speak to the mind of the person. And if you only speak to the mind of the person, you don't change the person. It is when you speak to the person's heart, his or her inner being, that you can transform him, not only inform the person, but transform the person. So I'm looking for attempts at how we can communicate science in the mother tongue. In this case, Ga. I'm very much concerned about this. If I want to take science to the fishermen, the fisher folk, the fishmongers, I cannot communicate with them in science with English. It will not affect them. It will not transform them in any way. But if I was able to do that in Ga, I'm sure science will affect them very tremendously. So I want to challenge the organizers of this program to start thinking seriously about what can be done in the area of making our vernaculars to be the means by which we can communicate. In the classroom, certainly, yes, we use English. But on the street, as it's been said here, if you want to do street science, street evangelism, it must be in the local language or the mother tongue. So I rest my case. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. I think this is a wonderful point. Absolutely well taken. And this is really the reason why, on this journey of connecting people to science. I guess sometimes you start by the low-hanging fruits, and then you try to do better and better. And I love your quote, which is that let's science inform our minds and also inform our hearts or inspire our hearts. I think. I'd like to invite Professor Mahama, who is also on here. He's raised his hand. Come in and make a point. Welcome, Prof.
Thank you very much. I'm just surprised to hear from Professor Wellington. Since he left Kumasi, I haven't seen him. We were there together, and he came to Legon. I followed. I'm also in Legon now. And let me come to the defense of Angela. I think I heard her saying female mathematicians. And if I don't know if she's right, Professor Wellington probably can tell us if there were female mathematicians that she could have used as role models. But before that, I want to, anyway, Angela, I'm defending you because I was in Strathclyde. So we're in Glasgow together. So I support you. Now, I want to really congratulate them. The gentleman from the medical school, what he's doing would really touch these children. My daughter, when she was in primary school, one day told me that, said, "Daddy, can you take me to see a real doctor?" I said to her, "What do you mean? You think I'm not a doctor?" But I took her to see Dr. Gorman at the university hospital. And my daughter has graduated from the medical school here. She's finished her housemanship. So these things have an impact on people, and they are doing a very good job. Professor Wellington's appeal about communicating, Paul indicated that in his speech, the audience, how you get to them and impart what you want to say. So that's what I have to say for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your point. I think it's absolutely spot on. And also for explaining Angela's position. I think that we don't have a lot of visible African women in mathematics that maybe a lot of people can relate to. And so I think that visibility is also highly important. Yeah. Do we have any more questions? Okay, I've seen another set of raised hands. Prof. Kaufman also just raised a hand, so I'd like to invite her to make a point.
Yes, I want to contribute regarding the use of language. It's a major problem. So if this community can help us, that would be very, very useful. I have had many opportunities of being invited to go speak on science and science-related issues on various media platforms. And I normally worry about what it is I'm going to say with my very bad G. So at the end of the day, the best I can do is to speak something called Chinglish, which is a combination of Tree and English all mixed up in a big mess. So if there is a way to help us to learn how to communicate in the local languages, some of the things that we do, I think it would help a great deal. But one of the best experiences I had was I was invited to Diasa. I don't know how many of you watch that program. They're the plus size ladies who are dancing. And I wanted to link that to science. In my interview with them, I talked about biomechanics, how all of the dancing moves they are doing is related to physics, application of mechanics, and it was a terrible mess. I mean, my Tree and English combination was just too bad. So we are looking for help. If someone can help, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. I think that this is also a subject of research. You know, we need to do a lot more research in science and technology studies, with the culture and the sociology around science as well. And I'm sure a lot of people would have some experiences or at least some ideas in terms of how do we approach this. And yeah, I'm definitely open to doing more engagement in local languages. I speak Ewe fluently, so I should challenge myself to do more engagement in Ewe, I guess, and also working with others to look at how that can be done in other languages. So yeah, if you have any ideas or experiences, I think it'll be very nice to hear from those who have tried or experimented. There's one hand up. Is it Joyce or Josie? I'd like to invite you, and please, if it's possible, when you want to speak, turn on your video as well so we can see your face.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Sorry, I cannot turn on my video because I don't have the video cam on my computer.
No problem.
Yes. So I am tuning in from Namibia, Southern Africa, and I am so impressed. I'm really excited. I got the opportunity to listen to everyone. I am inspired. I gained some new knowledge on how to actively communicate science within my own community. I am from the background of geoscience, sorry. I work for the Ministry of Mines and Energy, but in addition to being a geoscientist, I'm an active science communicator within the field of earth sciences. I'm so impressed. I don't know, I so much notes, I don't know where to start, but I really like the ideas that each and every presenter presented, and it's so motivating. I like the fact that in these programs, there's initiative for young people to come through and be encouraged to take up science, which is one of the things that is very challenging on our side. Science is not so exciting this side, so it's really it's a challenge for us to get our young people to get enticed and intrigued with the field of science. So I would just want to touch on the issue of being able to translate science into vernacular languages. We have a program that is run that we run to educate the community on the importance of science, specifically focusing on earth sciences. And what we had done is we communicated with the local radio stations. So Namibia is quite a small country. We're like 2.5 million people, and we don't really have, it's not as, we don't have like a big, say, population that we really need a lot of science centers around. So we try to educate radio personnel or radio personalities on science and what science is, so that they can translate that in their different vernacular languages. So it's an initiative that was supposed to take place last year. We already had engagement with the radio personalities, teaching them on what is trying to translate what is the different earth science, say, disciplines we have into our own vernacular languages. It's very difficult because sometimes you don't know what is a geoscientist in the Oshuambo language, which is my language. So you have to find connecting words to make sense out of that. So it's a process, but we are going to try and test it officially next month and see how that goes. So maybe that was also one initiative that we can look into, trying to educate radio personalities that are really good in vernacular that can translate the message across. Yeah, that's all I want to say, and I'm really, really happy to be here. Thank you so much for the initiative.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Josie. Very nice to connect with you. I have some great friends, at least 2 or 3 friends from Namibia. So it's nice to hear from somebody else from Namibia. Please, if you have a link to your initiative or any information, kindly feel free to share it so people on here can follow up with you as well. So there's a big question on the platform. I think this is probably the last question we'll be looking at. We've already passed our closing time. And this question is from Yaya Sumara. Yaya, would you like to raise the discussion yourself? Okay, we are not hearing from him, so I will put the question on the floor for people who are interested to look at it. So he's commenting on the progress of science communication and engagement around the world and also in Ghana. And he has a specific question. He says that, is there a balance to the science that we are communicating to the people? Is science communication all about health and allied sciences or engineering? So he's making allusions to the fact that when you listen to engagement on radio, there are a lot of issues that people are not aware about. Yeah, pointing to social justice issues, and also, yeah, everything on radio and TV is about health. I think he has a fair point, but I'm sure there are other things happening. We've seen Angela's work with promoting mathematics. Global Lab, we do outreaches. We engage kids on things like design thinking and all kinds of other topics as well. But what do people think about this? And what are some of the topics, aside the health topics, what other topics should we also be properly engaging on? I think we have some raised hands. We have Charles Dolly, he has his hand raised. We have a response to or an input to Yaya's question. Charles.
Yeah, hello, good evening, everyone. I'm Charles Dolly. I'm happy to be here. Just a little contribution towards how to communicate science in the vernacular languages. I remember my time in medical school. One thing that we had to do in order to help foreigners, especially Nigerians who came and who were in our class and had to, clerk patients in especially the vernacular languages, considering that not everyone in Ghana knows, how to speak English fluently. Some students actually took it upon themselves to translate the common questions that would typically occur, that would typically be asked when individuals come to the hospital. So it was a bit of a drag, considering that it was, getting the exact words to actually describe what it is the patient came with. But and then it helped them a lot. Throughout the 6 years, they became more familiar with how to, communicate what it is they wanted to ask the patients, and then that also helped them in their final exams. So, it's possible to train individuals who are well vested in the local languages, and then once you start with them, because they would have the benefit of both sides knowing how to speak the local languages very well, and also being trained in science. They would be able to serve as the bridge between science to the very people not well vested in the English language, and then how to also those who are quite vested in the. So that's my little contribution from my experience when I was in school. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, Charles, thank you very much for sharing your experience. Very, very helpful and relevant. There was also Dennis who raised his hand. Dennis, are you still on?
Yeah, I'm still on.
Yeah.
Yeah, pardon me, for some reason I cannot put on my video, but I think it has been very great presentations and I have learned a lot. Also about, the various sciences, and I feel that the stakeholders should take it upon themselves to try to break down some of the jargons or try to find some meanings in our local language to make it easier for people to connect with. So if you're in biotechnology, if you're in neurosciences, wherever you find yourself, I think it'll be very good to go down there, find out the terminologies that you use in your line of work, and try to get some, should I say, a repository or a dictionary of some sort that can actually explain some of the regular words or jargons that you come across in your various, line of work. So I think that should be, prioritized. Also, secondly, I believe that the art of storytelling also plays a very important role in communicating science. I don't know what the presenters think, but I feel when you actually tell a story, it actually appeals to the emotions of the listener or the person you're trying to communicate to. Paulo's presentation, he sort of got my attention because of how he expressed himself. And talking about getting a present and gift is sort of like rose my interest in whatever he wanted to say. So I feel it's not just about really talking, but also, presenting something of interest, appealing to the emotions, getting people to understand. I feel if we should be able to do that, or if we're able to do that, we're always going to get the message across to the people in much understanding. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dennis?
May I just add a word to what has been said?
Yes, please go ahead.
Could I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Yes. It should be of interest, a great interest to us, that the School of Medical Sciences at the KNUST has come out with a published dictionary or a glossary of 3 words in science, medical science. For me, that's an indication that it is possible that what I'm looking for can be done. But I want to add that it shouldn't be only 3. I'm very much concerned about the survival of the Ghana language. And it's interesting to know that, as the young man made reference to the medical school with the Nigerian students, there are so many Ghana words in medical science. You know the word fashioko? It's a Ghana word originally, but it's now entered in the literature in medical science. So I want to endorse again the point I've made, that there's a need for us, this group, to think seriously about how we can vernacularize the communication, the language of science in our country. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Prof. I think the point here is, there's a very clear message which is coming from this meeting, which is that how do we really translate science into our local languages and reach more people? So this is going to be an action point. I would have to follow up with you and also follow up with everybody else on the call, and then we can do something practical and tangible about it, so that it's not like we've talked about it, but it's a clear point that has emerged from this meeting that we have to address and take forward. I was wondering, just to conclude, because we've really passed time and I'm still happy to continue, but whether Nalini from Science Expo South Africa, because I'm really happy to have you in the call. I've seen bits about the Science Expo, although I don't know too much about it. And so based on what you've learned from the presentation so far in your experience, how would you describe the science communication landscape in South Africa versus the image that you may have formed so far about science communication in Ghana?
Hi, thanks everyone. Lovely presentations. I've learned so much. In terms of the science communication, what I'm involved in is more at a school level, and where learners from throughout South Africa, learners from up to like grade 12 for us here in South Africa, from grade 4 to grade 12, are actually engaging in their own scientific research, and they are presenting their findings at our Science Expo. So in my case, my engagement with science communication is actually with learners and them communicating their findings and their scientific research. So it's quite interesting to actually we currently hosting our provincial expos in the country. So it's quite interesting to see the innovation and the talent of the young people in South Africa. So that is quite heartwarming. And although I'm currently starting my master's, I'm not in a position to speak much about that kind of academic science communication. So yeah, that's just from my side in terms of the communication that I'm involved in. So thanks everyone I've learned a lot in what other people are doing, and that's from my side. That's what I'm engaged in here in South Africa, and our learners also compete at an international platform. Later on in October, we'll have learners from other countries in Africa. I'm not sure if Ghana is one of them. I can't quite recall offhand, but yeah, so that's as far as for me, that's what I'm concerned, what I'm involved in. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for your input. So there was another question from Prof. Efa Kaufman about the importance of body language and appearance in communicating science. And there's an answer here from Eliza, who says that I think being a good storyteller is more important than appearance, but body language is something we try to be aware of when trying to communicate anything. And I imagine that the importance of body language also depends on the medium that you're using, like the point that was made earlier by Paul. So if your medium is a visual medium where you are visible as an individual on TV, in person, online, in some cases, then body language becomes more and more important. But if you are communicating via, say, radio or writing or some other means, then I guess it will become less important. So it depends on the context. Various things have to be taken into consideration. So, so just to round up, I would like to share my slide once again. Sorry. So I'd just like to, I wanted to share a little bit more about what we do at Global Lab, but I'll skip about that. Just to say we try to organize lots of community calls and science cafes and outreaches and engagement activities. And what I'd like to say is that it's always nice to have more people come, to connect with us and speak at our events and activities, particularly the Science Cafe. So next month we'll be having a Science Cafe. And so we'll be sharing the information on the topic and the presenters with you in the next few days and weeks. However, if you're interested in being a Science Cafe speaker, and you can see Angela, I'm always using Angela as our poster person. If you want to speak at a future Science Cafe that we organize, like be sharing on a particular topic in depth or a specific topic in depth, you are welcome to do that. I will put a link again in the chat, and also feel free to get in touch with our team on social media or email, and we'll be happy to engage with you and explore opportunities for collaboration. Before we close, I'd like to invite as many people as possible to turn on their videos so that we can take a group photo, because it's like a customary thing we do on the call, and then we can close officially. Yes, I can see the faces popping up one by one. Yes. Okay, I'll be taking it, but Eva and other people, if you are able to take shots as well, so that we have backup. Okay, 1, 2, go. Awesome. Thank you.